Mhm.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are in the world. This is the Rebel News Daily live stream. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, Alexa Lavoie. And things are a little bit weird because I'm working in the Calgary office today. So I don't have my normal setup. So I have to talk to a camera instead of a monitor. So I don't get to see just how pretty Alexa looks today. But Alexa, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. You have a nice background, but it look a little bit cold.
Yeah, this is just the green screen, and this is whatever I had on my computer because I didn't have my regular background with me saved on here. But I think we're gonna wing it. It's gonna be great. We should tell everybody what we're doing before we get started because there's a ton to talk about, including Justin Trudeau going to your fair city, which I guess at the
Yeah.
end of the day is his fair city too. So it's no surprise that he was
Mhm.
there. But this is the Rebel News Daily live stream. We're streaming on YouTube, and YouTube recently changed the rules. So there are some things we can say, some things we can't say. For example, they just changed the rule that says that now we can make fun of masks. And now we can say that masks don't work, even though for 2 years they kicked you off the platform if you said masks don't work. So they can just decide to no longer cancel people, but at the same time, what do you do about all the people you censored over the last 2 years? We're just
Yeah.
supposed to forget about that. And anyway, there may come a time in the stream today where we have to cut the YouTube feed, but the good news is we are streaming on 3 other platforms, and the beauty of those 3 other platforms is that they don't really care what your politics are. So there's Getter, so we're streaming on Getter, but if you want to interact with us and support the work that we do completely willingly, might I suggest you find us on Rumble or Odyssey. On Rumble, if you leave us a paid chat, it's called a Rumble rant. We'll read it on air and we'll do our best to address your question, query, comment, or story idea. And on Odyssey, if you leave us a hyper chat, there's a couple different ways to do that. Again, if that's their paid chat, you send us a paid chat, we'll read it on air, and we'll try to get to those about halfway through the show and then towards the end of the show. I think that's everything. And again, because I don't have my normal monitor, I'm going to be looking down at my screen sometimes or onto my phone so that I can follow along with our story plan for how we're going to do the show today. But let's get to Justin Trudeau being in Montreal.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
he was out and about eating, maskless, sounds like, even though he wants us to wear
Mhm.
masks everywhere we go. And he's with the German chancellor.
Mhm.
And they had a lot to say about populism, about Germany's
Mhm.
reliance on Russia, and how the solution is not going to be Canadian
Mhm.
natural gas, but rather more green schemes, which is what forced Germany into the arms of Russia in the first place.
Yeah, this is actually really funny because, as you know, last time he went to the acidic Jew area, the main area we're targeting during the COVID, because, as you know, like they live their life and they just continue why they will like regulate their life with like rule that are not based on science for some
Well,
of
and
it. Like,
sorry,
so
before we go on here, let's just talk about that for a second. So last time Justin Trudeau was in Montreal
yeah,
dining, he went to
yeah,
Outremont, which is
yeah,
the Jewish neighborhood and
yeah,
Hasidic or Orthodox Jewish neighborhood.
yeah.
And the reason that was particularly spiteful of Justin Trudeau to go there
Hmm.
is that Montreal had a curfew, a COVID
Yeah,
curfew, so that if you
exactly.
were outside after 8 o'clock at night,
Hmm.
apparently that's when COVID was worse.
Yeah,
And the problem with that is Orthodox Jews go to synagogue on Friday
hmm,
night. So
yeah,
while they didn't close the synagogues, they did
hmm,
limit attendance to the synagogue. They basically made it illegal for you to be on the street to go to the synagogue. And
yeah,
so Orthodox Jews were targeted and ticketed en masse for going to synagogue. And our reporter Yankee Pollock, when he lived there
yeah.
before he escaped to the free state of Florida, he documented so much of that when he was there. So that's the backstory about the last time Justin Trudeau was in Montreal. He made it a point to go to a neighborhood that COVID restrictions had
Hmm.
targeted the last time around.
So it's why this is actually hilarious. Thank you for the background story. So again, he went to another restaurant at well, I think it was Damas or something like that. But it was in the same area, I think 2 blocks away, and he went there with Olaf Scholz, and what we were able to see is like the amount of car SUV who were there for the security of these 2 men. When we know that Olaf Scholz came in Canada for reduce their carbon footprint and as well for greener energy that is hydrogen. But this is actually really hypocrite when we see again the day after the amount of SUV that were there to escort these 2 men. So we know that he's there for a really short time. I think it's 3 days in total. They went to Montreal, they went to Toronto, and they went to Newfoundland. So they probably didn't drive. They probably take a private jet for like changing city, and as well the escort of this multiple car. So I'm just thinking like in 3 days they probably spend like the amount of carbon footprint of just like a normal society, like the normal population probably of the province of Quebec. So in I don't know how many times, but this is actually really hypocrite of their side to do that when they actually promote to reduce the amount of carbon footprint of the population, to ask them to eat bugs, example, instead of meat, because that helps with the GHG emission. So for me, it's just a hypocritical visit from Olaf Scholz, especially because he's the agenda contributor of the World Economic Forum, as Mr. Trudeau is on their website too. So I'm just wondering, like, they came here for a greener energy, but as we know, like hydrogen, it seems not really more greener when we think that is can be 11 times more dangerous for the climate because it's a warmer gas, like it's 11 times faster on the warmer climate. So I will have like a report on that that's coming up because I just had the answer from Michelle Stingling. So we will discuss
yes.
Sterling. Yes.
Michelle from
Yes.
Friends of Science. Yes, if you want to know
Yeah.
anything about climate change, she's your lady. Because she looks at it in a way that she doesn't look at the politics of it. She looks at what these policy ideas are going to cost your family, and she looks at the historical geological record where you see scientists saying, "Oh, the world has been warming since 1950."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great, but the world's a lot older than that, including recent recorded history. Like we have temperature data that goes back even further than that. So why are we cherry picking from 1950? So I
Yeah.
look forward to that because I feel like Michelle is going to debunk a lot of or at least throw a little bit of cold water on the idea that the solution to everybody's climate problems is hydrogen, because we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And, speaking of hypocrisy with the German chancellor and Justin Trudeau, these two can't shut up about how they're standing in solidarity with Ukraine. And
Mm-hmm.
before anybody writes me letters, I'm anti-invasion, definitely. However, I want to point out the hypocrisy of these two because it's been green energy policies that have forced Western Europe, but particularly Germany, to be in the bosom of Vladimir Putin. They are funding the Russian war machine through their reliance on
Mm-hmm.
Russian natural gas. And Justin Trudeau, I think we've got a clip from, it was on Efron's Twitter, if we could bring that up. Justin Trudeau's response to the war in Ukraine, where energy prices soar. It's never been clearer to continue with the green energy transition, adding that Canada will be a supplier of energy in a net zero world. There's no such thing as energy in a net zero world unless we're talking about nuclear. But again, we'll talk about Germany and nuclear in a second. Can we throw to that clip? I might have put everybody on the spot a little bit here.
In the face of the current geopolitical situation with Russia weaponizing fossil fuel exports, we are standing shoulder to shoulder with our European friends and allies. Canada is doing our part to add to the global energy supply right now. But it has never been clearer why we need to accelerate the green transition. And you should have no doubts that Canada has what it takes to be a supplier of clean energy in a net zero world.
This is so ridiculous. We're a fossil fuel superpower. Alberta is the Saudi Arabia of coal, let alone being the Saudi Arabia of oil. And then we have natural gas. There are provinces like your own that don't frack for some reason. You'd rather be reliant on imported fossil fuels instead of using your own and creating jobs for Quebecers. But if we go back historically speaking, Germany decided to go green. They are very, they have a lot of coal. Instead of utilizing their own coal, they shuttered their coal plants. But then they went one step further. They shuttered their clean energy. By that, I mean nuclear. They decided to get off nuclear too. And if you care about greenhouse gas emissions, I'm not sure I do, but Germany tells me they do. And they shuttered their nuclear facilities, which meant that they had to be reliant on Germany because green energy is unreliable. If the wind isn't strong enough, your turbines don't work. If the wind is too strong, your turbines don't work. If it's not sunny, then you don't have any solar energy. Solar energy only works when the sun is out. So they shuttered their reliable energy. Then they went to green energy. But the problem with green energy is you always need fossil fuel backup if you don't want to die. And so they became heavily reliant on Russia. I think they buy over 50% of their natural gas from Russia every single day. And Russia actually holds all of the cards now at this point because they will cut supply to Germany. Germany can say, oh, we're not going to buy natural gas from Russia. But then what? Where are you going to buy it from? You could buy it from Canada, but Justin Trudeau won't let us liquefy our natural gas and export it to the rest of the world. And we've got so much of it, but we're not doing that. We could be the solution to Russia trying to take over their part of the world, but we don't do it. Justin Trudeau says we need green energy is what got Western Europe in this position of being reliant on Putin. And so what's Justin Trudeau's solution? Do more of the same. It is literally the definition of insanity to continue to do the thing that didn't work, expecting a different result.
And instead of coming here and buy our fossil fuel, like example, our oil and gas that we have a lot here in Canada, we prefer to go to hydrogen. And hydrogen, we are not really, we are there yet, but we are not specialists of liquefying it and like transporting it. We didn't do it before really. So why not buying, if you have a crisis right now, buying our gas and oil from Canada, that you can solve the problem right now, like for your population. And just if you don't want to buy from Russia, you have another option now that you can use. And afterwards, you can think of something else. But like, why not buying your energy from us when we have a lot? And especially like in Quebec, when we see that we had a company who were capable to extract natural gas to a net zero emission, and they were refused to do it from Quebec province.
Yeah. When you hear the words net zero, I try to replace them in my head with the words democracy zero, because the world is always going to need fossil fuels. There's a lot of unicorn ideas out there that are not reality. If they do exist, it's with fossil fuel backup and heavy subsidies. So when you hear net zero, you should think in your mind, oh, you mean Western economies where democracy and human rights are supposed to be important, they are going to cripple their economies so that the world's oligarchs and bad guys can get richer and richer. Because if you don't buy from Canada, if you don't buy your liquefied natural gas from Australia, who's doing a good job of liquefying it right now, if you don't buy from us, then you will be forced to buy from Russia, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Iran, the world's worst people. You can create jobs in places like Quebec, or you can create jobs in places like Kazakhstan, where the people who work in the oil field only work at, basic wages to line the pockets of crooked oligarchs.
And like example, I went to Nigeria, okay? Of course, they produce a lot of energy, okay? But they export most of it to other country around. And for them, I would say like the energy for their own citizen, that is actually really sad. The energy is cutting all the time. They run out for their own population. So do we want to increase that problem? Because we want to take away all their energy, and for their own citizen, they don't have it. Like example for the electric car, we have some difficulty to find the lithium, and the lithium is producing in some field in Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia, where it's really unstable there. And we take the cobalt from RDC, where some children is dying in the mine, or the experience of life, it's less than a normal like person. Or do we really want to, or we will go greener, but we will make suffer other country for us? Do we really want that?
I wonder if these human rights activists would care if they knew how many dead children or sick children were in every electric car battery. If we measured it that way. I remember, I don't know who did it, but there used to be a measurement about how much blood was in a barrel of dictator oil versus Canadian oil. And I wonder if that same calculation would hold true. If somebody actually sat down and figured out, this is how many instances of cancer, childhood cancers, are in this car battery. This is how many missing fingers. This is how many early deaths from mining in unsafe conditions. That's in your electric car battery. Would you rethink it the same way people rethink their fair trade coffee because they're ethical people and they don't want to contribute to human suffering? And these are the same people who and good for them, opt to buy a Canadian diamond as opposed to a diamond mined on the African continent, because Canadian diamonds create jobs and wealth for Indigenous people. And, those same people should be applying that same ethical metric to their green energy. And I think they would be shocked if they actually had to stop and think about the human suffering their green energy is causing.
Yeah, and not only that, they say that they want to trade the meat for the bugs because they use less water for the production of it. But when we look at the lithium, the amount of money that needed for producing lithium, people will actually being like so surprised to just trade the water from your meat. You will eat bugs, but because the water that is using for your meat will be traded for your electric car for the lithium that is using in it.
Yeah. And I know there are some people who are watching who probably are like expat Canadians who have worked around the world. And as the oil patch takes a downturn, you'll see all of the Canadian oil patch experts, they sort of fan out across the world. They'll end up working in Russia. They'll end up working in Kazakhstan. They'll work in Nigeria. They'll work in Mexico because they don't have the same, I guess, they don't kneecap their own economies. When things get bad, they drill and drill and drill because it's a quick influx of cash. The opposite is true in Canada. So I know, and especially from my own family's experience, when you go to these other places of the world to work in the oil patch, it is shocking how poor the locals are paid. It's also shocking how poor the environmental standards are and the safety standards are. if you care about environmental standards, fair wages, and safety, you should be getting your oil from Canada, but at the very least, the Western world.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I agree totally with you, and especially they don't have the security tool that we have for working on the platform. Example, most of them
sure.
they've been sent there without equipment or anything, and they just say like work, and we will give you so less money, but you will be like a hard worker. But most of them they don't even know like where what they are extracting go after and which price they pay for it. The only thing that they know, I need to work for my family, I need to provide my family at the risk of my life and for the few money that I get from it.
Yep. Speaking of at the risk of your life, Justin Trudeau, in another serious bout of hypocrisy, I don't know if we have a video of this. Maybe Olivia will let me know in my ear. Justin Trudeau decided that today he would honor the victims and survivors of communism and Nazism in Europe. And we pledged to continue. Yeah, this is it. Black Ribbon Day. Okay, great. Thanks, Justin Trudeau. We pledge to continue standing up for all those who continue to face violence and oppression at the hands of authoritarian regimes. Really, Justin Trudeau says this. I was just going to say, like,
during the convoy?
During the convoy, his authoritarian goons shot you in the leg with a crowd control gun, pepper sprayed you and Guillaume, ran over peaceful protesters. Tamara Lich spent 49 days in jail, seized the bank accounts of people. Tell me that's not what they do in authoritarian regimes. That's textbook authoritarian regime stuff. Justin Trudeau made it illegal to protest his policies in the capital city of our country. Where else are you supposed to protest the government except in the city that houses it? And he made it illegal because inconveniencing people who live in that city became illegal. So not just being a critic of Justin Trudeau, but then he also said, well, you're inconveniencing these people by exercising your rights.
Again, I say it. This is so hypocrite. I'm sorry, but it is. Like he is standing for something that is not, of course, it's stand for something that is not concerned on it. Like, but I would not stand on something that maybe I did.
It's gaslighting of the highest order. I know he's not a very bright man. I know he's a very stupid individual. And I think his strings are often pulled by the people around him because he's not a big thinker. He'll just go along to maintain power because he's like a prince. He feels like he's inherited the role of being the prime minister. I think even he knows he hasn't earned it, but he feels entitled to it because he's the first family or whatever. He's like a Kennedy, right? So he's not smart, but I think even he knows that he is guilty of the things that he is saying he must remember and defend the world against. I think even he must know that he did these things.
But I would say, like, can we have an election soon? we probably need to rethink about, like, who vote for, like, Justin Trudeau? It's probably people who don't follow any news or politics. I'm sorry, but if you get close to what he's doing, it's obviously that is a wrong choice to vote for. Because it's, first of all, polarizing our country, punishing the unvaxxed, is doing everything that is wrong on the changing energy, is going against the farmer. Can we have like something like a person who take the good decision for once?
I think, though, this is why you see this rising tide of separatist sentiment in Alberta, and I'll be surprised if it doesn't kick off in Quebec again. Like right now in Alberta, the separatist sentiment is higher than that in Quebec. And it is because of exactly what you're saying. You want to know who the heck voted for this guy? Us too. But this is what it's always been like for us, because for us, we have to live with the fact that the election is over before we even cast our vote here. That it is decided even before sometimes all the votes are counted in Toronto, the rest of us don't even matter. So we're constantly governed by people whose values are completely incompatible with ours, who are fine to vote for socks and fancy hair, and they don't care about the carbon tax because they take the bus. They don't care about people who live an hour outside of the city or grow their food or truck their groceries to the store. They're very disconnected. In Toronto, you can live your whole life in Toronto, never leave the city. In Alberta, I think even still, most people are maybe 1 or 2 generations connected to the farm. So they might have moved to the city, but their grandparents still farmed or their parents still farmed. So you still know people who make a living with their backs and their hands. And Justin Trudeau isn't one of those people, and he doesn't respect the people who do.
But you just put the finger on the problem. The society have created a kind of society where you focus on your own life. You're kind of selfish person because you just focus on your own problem. When the society should have learned us to open our mind to every problem in every province, to make sure that your decision impact the whole country correctly and fair. But unfortunately, it's not how we grow up.
Well, and it gets to the point where, as Albertans, we say, you don't care about us in Toronto, so why do we care about you? Like, that's where people get to the point where they say, we've tried to help you, we carried the load, but you keep voting for things that destroy our lives. And when I say destroy our lives, I'm not even remotely exaggerating. When we live through these policies that scare oil field investment away to other jurisdictions, it's really easy to not drill in Saskatchewan and drill in the same oil field using the same technology in North Dakota. It's the same, it's the Bakken. You can just go across the border and drill and work and do business there. You don't have to do business in Canada. You can go to West Texas and drill and create jobs and create wealth and not worry about all these stupid restrictions, like putting a gender-based analysis into every major project that you want to do in this country. You don't have to worry about banks who are saying, well, we don't want to fund fossil fuel projects anymore because it doesn't align with our values of sustainable development goals or whatever it is. It's a lot easier to just go to Nigeria, go to Russia. Like literally, it is a safer bet in the oil patch to want to do business in Nigeria, Kazakhstan, some of the more horrible places in the world. It's easier and safer business-wise to do business there than in Justin Trudeau's Canada. And it gets to the point where people say, look, they won't let us work. They won't let us farm. They want to take 30% of everything I earn out of my pocket before I even get around to paying taxes. Why do I care anymore? Why do I want to be in this country anymore? They don't want us here. People feel like they've been shoved out the door.
And at the same time, like, people need to understand, okay, Canada would change, okay, their greener energy to Germany and other couple of countries, probably the G7. How many countries in the world? If the other country, they will not say no to the fossil energy if they use it. I'm sorry, but like we will not reach a net zero, as they say, for the planet. And you will probably suffer more from your pocket and from your life because you want to follow this, when the other country, they will not say no. What they will say no? They will continue their life, they will use it, and they will live like correctly, and probably they will get richer because probably the fossil fuel, because nobody wanted from the G7, will get cheaper, and their life will be better, but the net zero will not be reached. Don't think that will happen.
No, it's outlandish. It's a unicorn idea. One more thing before we go to, on the topic of Western alienation, and we do have an ad that we want to get to. But before we go there, let's throw to this vid of the Chancellor of Germany speaking in Toronto with Justin Trudeau about democratic ideals. And just listen to what this guy says, because it is something else to be saying this standing next to Justin Trudeau.
Your spirit, your values, your compassion, your diversity, but also your creativity and your talent. It is this combination that makes Canada so singular and so special. Our two countries share so much. Our people are driven by the same values, by the same convictions. Our societies are both guided by democratic ideals and by the disdain for those who think might is right.
On Thursday,
Your spirit,
August
your
25th,
values,
the Alberta
your
Prosperity
compassion.
Project and Rebel News are hosting a special UCP Leadership Dinner and Forum at the Edmonton Convention Centre. We're asking the UCP leadership candidates tough but fair questions, like how will they protect our rights and freedoms from the United Nations Agenda 2030 and World Economic Forum's Great Reset? How will they fight the climate change initiative? And how will they counter inflation? You won't want to miss this event. Get your ticket today at www.albertaprosperityproject.com.
That looked fun. I want to go.
It is fun. You probably find a lot of like-minded people there. I've got more in common with Quebecers than I think I do with most people in the Toronto area, that's for sure. And I think a lot of Albertans are coming to realize that there are ways that we should have learned from Quebec in flexing our muscles in Confederation, and we should have done it a lot sooner. But I did think it was interesting, by the way, going back to that video of the German Chancellor talking about how, what did he say exactly? He said, our societies are both guided by democratic ideals and by disdain for those who think might is right. So disdain for those who use force on people to adopt their point of view. So it's like the German Chancellor has not been paying attention to Canadian politics since, I don't know, at least the convoy, but probably the last 2 years.
They have something in common too. People like shout at them when they go and take, like, I don't know if you see some video of him like trying to speak in Germany, but a lot of protesters there to like yell after him too. So that is another thing that they have in common, both of them, that he was able to say. But when I found that really, when he said that he's really, he said that he's really smart and really intelligent on the creation. I was like, I think you're not talking about the same man that we know here.
Yeah, who are you even talking about? Let's get to some of these chats, and then we can go to the story of our friend Avi Yamini getting in trouble.
Oh yeah.
In New Zealand. So that's kind of fun. Quite frankly, I expected it. It seemed like things were going on too easily with him trying to go to New Zealand. So we'll start off with the first one. This is from Annalisa 1964. Annalisa, I did get your email you sent me the other day. I just don't think we can get anybody in that part of the world soon enough to cover what you are talking about. But thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. She gives us $20 and says, good morning, ladies. My nightmare is coming true. On Friday, I will be a few feet from Trudeau in the same building, breathing the same air. Wish me luck. Hold your breath. You might get stupider from just enjoying the products of his respiration. Just bite your tongue. Don't lose your job.
Oh my God. We have G Melinda G60 $1. Thank you. She said, my phone is the only way I can watch Ruben News today. Rumble on my Roku TV is not working today. Nothing on Roku is working today. Not Tubi either. Oh, problem with like the network.
Yeah, I guess. We've got one from Yuda Bursey or Judah Bursey. Somebody chat me one day and tell me if I'm saying that properly. A buck? You're frozen again on Rumble. So it looks like we're having a Rumble problem, friends.
Yeah,
I don't know if that the studio is aware. Adam Ottawa gives us a buck. I'm reading the book Woke Inc. You know, it's funny because you brought up Michelle Sterling from Friends of Science earlier, and she I watched a video that she was talking about the other day, and it was referring to Woke Inc. and how that all ties into these sustainability goals and corporations going woke, rejecting fossil fuels, like where your bank is worried about your carbon footprint, as you pointed out the other day. So it's funny that you should bring that book up, Adam Ottawa. You said, Inside Corporate America's Social Justice System. I highly recommend it to everyone who spends money. It will be influencing how I spend. You know, that's the thing.
I will read that. Yeah.
You really should. It really breaks down how corporate culture is to some extent willing to hurt shareholders to push this woke agenda. And if you're a shareholder of one of these woke companies, you might want to consider where you park your money. That's why I like what Daily Wire is doing. You know, they have Jeremy's razors, like Jeremy Boring's razors. They sort of take, okay, so Disney went woke, so they decided, okay, well, we're going to start making action movies. And then kids TV went woke, so they are starting a kids sort of TV version of their television and movie production. And kids books were woke. So Matt Walsh wrote a children's book and became the best-selling LGBT children's author, or at least that's how they listed him on Amazon for a time till everybody complained. And then I forget which razor company because it doesn't really matter, but they went woke, and so they said, fine, you want to be a woke razor company for some reason, we'll be the unwoke razor company. And they have Jeremy's razors, and I think that is often the solution. The thing about the left is they want to spend your money on their causes, and the right wants to spend our money on things that don't hate us. And so that's why I think this is just a wonderful thing that the Daily Wire is doing, saying, okay, well, you go woke, we're going to go unwoke, and we'll see who wins. And even if they don't win, they've given conservatives, or at least people who want to shop somewhere where someone doesn't care about your politics, gives you a place where you can spend your money in good conscience. And there's a market for that.
Yeah, but as well, like woke was not a word in Quebec until like I think it's 2020, late 2020, when it just appeared in the National Assembly, and everybody was using it afterwards, and was like, we never heard that word before. What does mean, you know? And after that, it's on the mouth of everybody.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand. And it permeates everywhere into things that I'm like, why are you doing this? I don't care. I can't imagine that anybody else would care. Like, why is the new Pride Parade flag, not the old one, not the rainbow flag, but like the one with the triangles and like where I don't know where to look and it's giving me vertigo? Why is that on my grocery store? What does that have to do with buying groceries? Straight people need to eat, gay people need to eat, transgender people need to eat. This should be one of those things that transcends politics. But once again, the grocery store has to virtue signal about how woke they are. And I don't know what the point is. What is the point?
You should come here in Montreal. They have everywhere, like same at the Olympic Stadium. It's all the flag around it. I don't understand, but yeah.
I just don't understand a big, enormous pride flag on the grocery store. And I'm like, why did the grocery store have a problem with people being intolerant of gay or sexually diverse people? I can't imagine that was the case. So why are they doing that? What are you trying to prove?
And especially it just really recent. Okay, we know that gay pride was there like since a while. LGBTQ plus, it's like something that is there and accepted by the society since really a while, and now it just since maybe less than a year, maybe a year, it's just like it's an explosion of it, like as I don't know, it's due the pandemic, like they just opened the eyes, it's just like, whoa, we put like this everywhere.
I just don't understand the purpose. Like I just don't know where how that intersects with grocery shopping. I don't know. Let's keep going. Burton gives us $2. The stream is fine on Odyssey. Rumble is wonky today. Got it.
Right.
Discussions of importance to Albertans gives us 5 libraries. Just wait until the USA starts stepping down their navy protecting the global shipping lanes when they get dragged into a war. Pirates will take over all the oil tankers and container ships. Sounds positively Somalian. Eastern Canada will be demanding pipelines from the West. Let them freeze, in my opinion. Karma. Alberta must go. You know what, though? I don't think Albertans will do that. We'll happily provide Eastern Canada oil and create jobs and wealth for our Albertans. I think that's all we want. We just want you to buy our oil so that you can have ethical oil and we can have jobs. I don't understand why the government is preventing us from doing that, except they are worried that Alberta is going to get a little too uppity and they got to keep putting us back into our place.
Yeah, but you probably know more than me about the issue with Alberta. I'm not from there.
It's interesting because we are. I think the concern is for a lot of Eastern liberals that the power dynamic in this country has been one way for 150 years plus, that all the control of the country is centered in Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal. And because the power is centered there, a certain brand of politics is there. But out here in Alberta, especially because of oil and gas, we have a certain cachet. You don't have to be a well-connected Laurentian elite to be a wealthy, well-regarded person in Alberta. All you have to do is work hard, and sometimes with your back in your hands. Like I said before, you don't have to be a Trudeau or a Conrad Black or somebody like that. You don't have to come from old money. You can be one generation new money in an oil boom, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. And I think the idea, I think they look at us a little bit like Beverly Hillbillies. Like they came into money and they don't know what to do with it. So we better tell them how to manage their money, or better yet, just make sure they don't have any. I think there's some of that going on in an attempt for the East to hold on to their power, their stranglehold on the country. They got to keep us down.
And probably, I don't know, but Alberta should be like probably horrified when our premier in Quebec passed the law 21 about the banning of extraction of fossil fuel. For Alberta is not something that should not happen there. I hope so.
Yeah. And I think too, also we are culturally incompatible with the rest of the country. You know how Quebec feels like, well, and you are a distinct society, but we also are the same way too. We were founded by a different wave of immigrants than the rest of the country. We are, I would say, we are more culturally compatible with people who live in Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, than we are with people who live in Ontario, Montreal, even the lower mainland of BC. I think we are a different cultural styling who care about different things and live a different way and work different jobs than the rest of the country. And that's also why we butt heads with Ottawa, is because we are, like Quebec, very different than them.
Yeah, I'm going to move there.
I hope so. You would do very well here. Your accent is very exotic, and I feel like a lot of men would be like, "Who is that fancy lady?" I think you do great.
I'm taking my flight like in an hour.
Okay, the studio notes to us that Rumble's having weird freezing issues with their player right now. We've reached out to them. We're looking for a solution, but just to give everybody a heads up,
Yeah.
it's Rumble, it's not us. AMT60 gives us a buck and says Justin Trudeau is a hypocritic dictator and made Canada an authoritarian regime. He lies all the time. Singh, who's propping him up, also a dictator, as he wanted all unjabbed to be punished. There's a lot of people who wanted all the unvaccinated people to be punished. And then I think that's why they go through this sort of performative apology and reinforcement when they do get COVID. And they're like, oh, thank goodness I had my 2 doses plus my 2 boosters, because without it, I would definitely be dead of COVID. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. You don't know that. But I think that's why.
Yeah.
It's because how do you justify being so hard on the people who didn't get vaccinated when you ultimately probably all ended up with COVID anyway?
Yeah. True.
Adam Ottawa also gives us a buck. Says, Alexa, I got a kick out of them trying to kick you out of a public parade on a public street. The quest for this utopic safe space really triggers them, eh?
Oh yeah, you're completely right. And yeah, but being kicked off, I'm being kicked off almost everywhere. But it's okay, because in the same time, when we've been kicked off of somewhere, it's because we are disturbing them. And it's why I think it's important to show when we get kicked off, to just show that, first of all, they cannot support our present. They cannot answer our question. And when we trigger them with a good question, they froze and they don't know what to answer. So that just shows that they have a lack of understanding of both sides of the situation, and they just know one side, and they cannot like really argue when we trigger them with other information.
It's true. There's a reason why we always get thrown out, even though we are on good behavior. We don't go in there acting crazy or saying crazy things. We follow the rules when we go places. But there's a reason why, even though we are on good behavior, even though we follow the rules, even though we are respectful and decent and not disruptive, there's a reason why they throw us out. And it's because they know that they don't own us the way they own the mainstream media. So they know that we are going to ask things the mainstream media never will. So it is both a conviction of the liberals and the people who throw us out, but it is also a conviction on the moral failings of the mainstream media who've sold out their journalistic integrity to keep the lights on.
Exactly. We have more chat. Do we wait a little bit, or we
yeah,
go...
let's go into let's do an ad break, and then we'll go into Avi Yamini's his troubles.
Yeah,
down under.
But don't worry, everybody. We will read you for sure. Same if we take a little bit more time, we will do it.
Okay.
My mug? I know. It's pretty cool. So is this hoodie I got on, and you could have it on too if you check out our special website at rebelnewsstore.com. That's where you can see Freedom Focus hoodies that we have for you, beanies, cell phone cases, you name it, all while supporting our journalism, where we fight to bring you the other side of the story, as opposed to, being forced by the Trudeau government to fund leftist media out of your taxes. The truth is, without you and your generosity, there is no Rebel News. So again, if you like the reports that we bring you and that we also fight for freedoms in Canada, please consider doing some shopping, picking up some swag at rebelnewsstore.com. We appreciate your support.
It's nice. We have nice stuff in the store, and it's changing all the time. Especially as we do. Are you wearing one? Oh, the Justin Castro one.
Exactly.
That one is one of our most popular ones.
I really like it. And you can have the old Castro or the young Castro. So you can choose the one that you want.
That's right.
The one that I wear right now is the young Castro, and Guillaume have the old one.
It's shocking, actually, how similar they look.
They actually, when we look at his supposedly like real father, is not look like as much as Castro.
Oh, no, for sure not. He does not look like old man Trudeau. By the way, I never understood why women swooned over that lizard, because he literally looked like a lizard. He had like a lizard face, like a gecko. So I didn't understand why women thought he was just like the best. I don't know if it's the same reason when I hear British people talk and I think they're smart, and I'm like, wait, no, they're not smart.
Maybe
They
money?
just I think maybe it's because he had a French accent and he was obviously powerful, that maybe that's why people thought he was attractive, but I don't see it. I thought maybe when I got older I would see what the cougars saw in him, but I don't see it. I'm just not seeing it. Frankly though, I don't see what people see in the younger version either. So I don't know.
Maybe she
There's no
had like a problem with vision.
You know, I don't know. Like half the women in the country had a problem with vision then in the early 80s, because they were all just all about him. And I don't see it. It was like, you know what it was? It was like the same mass hysteria about COVID that people have. They were overreacting to COVID because the TV told them that you should overreact to COVID. So I think maybe the TV and CBC were telling people, oh yeah, no, he's wonderful. He's really handsome. And you're like, well, I don't see it, but if everybody else is doing it, then maybe I'll do it too. I think there might be some mass hysteria there, because I've done way too much thinking about it, by the way. We should get into our friend Avi Yamini. He tried to enter the land of the Kiwi, and they said, oh no, you're not coming. He was denied entry into New Zealand. He was denied entry into New Zealand. He did eventually get into the country, but the prime minister there, who is herself an insane lady, whom I, again, don't understand how she got elected, but she did.
Jacinda.
Jacinda. And she has distanced herself from the decision to not allow Avi into the country. And Avi is there to do journalism. He's not there to make trouble. He's there to do journalism that she knows is going to be critical of her. And so that's why they didn't let him into the country. But I think we have a clip of her saying, oh, I had nothing to do with it. Like Justin Trudeau has nothing to do with stomping on old ladies. Yes. Anyway, can we roll that?
There's also been a YouTuber from Australia that says that they've been denied entry into New Zealand. Have you been briefed on the situation?
I've only what I have seen in the public domain. And just to be absolutely clear, this is not something that, as I understand, would come to up to a ministerial level decision. I understand that it is solely for immigration, and it's not something I had any awareness of until I saw some commentary online.
Prime Minister,
yeah.
How concerned is the government at the potential for people coming from overseas to be part of these protests?
How what, sorry?
How concerned is the government that people might come from overseas to join these protests?
Again, for us, it's not about where people have come from. It's simply whether they're willing to engage in peaceful and lawful protest.
There's also been a YouTuber from...
What?
So I'm pretty sure that Avi has never been engaged in violent protest. No. He is only going there to cover the protests against the government. And what she wants is to make sure that international eyes don't see the level of objection to her government. It's just like Justin Trudeau, go ahead.
Don't forget what she said. If the information is not coming from us, this is not true. She said that. Remember that video when she said that if the information is coming from us, it's not true. It's not. It's misinformation. So probably like AV, it's not the information that's come from them. So they don't want that.
Right. They want to control the narrative. And so they want you to get all your news from these government press conferences and not from journalists who are on the ground talking to New Zealanders about why they are showing up en masse to protest the government. Yeah, let's look at this straight out of 1984. Maybe we can get the audio up because what she says is absolutely insane.
Yeah, probably we'll try again with this.
She's gonna get that. But basically, Jacinda said that if it is not, as Alexa said, basically, if it's not coming from us, then it's misinformation. So get all your news from us. Don't regard any critical sources. Only trust the government, which is straight out of East Germany.
Yeah, and it's why I'm not really surprised that AV had like so much difficulty to enter in that country. It's just really sad because I've been there and it's like such a beautiful country, but she was not at the end of the country at that time. But AV do a great job.
Yeah, like it's not like he's convicted of terrorism. Like it's not like he's some ISIS bride trying to come into the country. He is an Australian trying to go to New Zealand to do journalism on events that are happening in New Zealand. And if you care about a free press, as apparently the New Zealand government says they do, because they are sort of part of the Commonwealth and our history of human rights, they say they care about those things. It sure took them a long time to let Avi into the country to do the things they say they care about. They're just really worried, like I said, about the rest of the world, because Avi has a very large audience, a lot of American followers, UK followers, Australian followers, Canadian followers, and a lot of people actually in the Chinese expat community because of the work he did in Hong Kong during the freedom protests there. So a lot of international eyeballs are looking at one man, Avi Yemini, and she knows it. And so she thought she could quietly block him from the country. The problem is you can't make Avi Yemini go quietly into anything. And so when she blocked him from the country, it made her look even worse, right? Because now everybody knows that she's just a censor and a bully instead of just a bully.
Exactly. But I'm happy at least that he tried because he can expose that.
Yep, exactly. And I can't wait to see the journalism that comes out from there. Now we should get to some of these chats.
Yes.
We'll get to the last two, and then maybe we'll talk about the one more thing on our list of things to talk about. So we've got one from King7734 gives us a buck. Does the rainbow community get bent out of shape every time something is purchased? It's a transaction. Exactamundo gives us $2 and says, Alexa is going to be developing a pro energy beat in Quebec. So I'm happy that you send us a message about this. And stay tuned because she's got some great work coming up. But Alexa, do a story about the Saguenay. Did I say that properly?
Saguenay, yeah. It's actually where my colleague is come from. Guillaume. Saguenay. So a Saguenay LNG cancellation. So LNG is another energy extracting company that was supposed to extract natural gas for the people who don't know. And so again, it was supposed to be a project with net zero emission as Quester that is come from US but based in Calgary, I think. So another company that did fill the form for being net zero with social acceptability, and because of the law 21 that Legault Premier did adopt, because it's 74 seat at the National Assembly, so he is majority, so every decision that he take, he gets accept. So because of that, all the company who wanted to extract fossil fuel like hydrocarbon or natural gas was canceled. And I'm going to dig on that, especially because with a net zero emission, it should be a project that you should want for your province, especially because it gives you a certain freedom of on energy. And so for doing that for the province, it's actually pretty bad, because not only you get to multinational instead of producing your own energy. So our premier say and keeps telling that he's a nationalist is not, okay?
Right.
This is not what a nationalist will do.
No, he's in Justin Trudeau's pocket. How can he be a nationalist defending the sovereign interests of Quebec, but doing literally everything the federal government wants him to do on this one issue?
Yes. Exactly. So for my part, it's like, if I have a lot of Quebec people who look at Ruben News, when he say that he's a nationalist, it's actually lying to all of us.
Let's get to this one last story here. I think it's crazy because, they kept telling us, like testing. Oh, did I lose video? Can you guys hear me okay?
You lost your mountain.
My audio went down.
Don't get lost in the mountain. We want you.
Keep talking, Oksa.
So we went to the random COVID-19 testing at Canada border, forcing unvaccinated traveler to quarantine. Is it that one you wanted to talk? Yeah, so they seems that you don't understand, because they keep testing the people, but the traveler who are perfectly healthy will need to be forced of quarantine. So they don't really know why they are doing that, because at the end of the day, you are not forcing the people who have COVID-19 to quarantine, but actually healthy people. Are you with me, Sheila?
I am back. I just had to mute my microphone so that my speakers aren't picked up by this thing. But I mean, there are healthy people who are they're being fined if they reject being forced into quarantine. So they've met all the requirements. They're not sick. A flawed test is showing that they have COVID when they have either been vaccinated or recovered. And when they say, no, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm not sick, I don't have COVID, you can't take me to quarantine, and they're getting thousands of dollars in tickets because of it. And they have to go through the trouble of paying the ticket because it's too much of a hassle to fight it, or fighting it in court. And the government just gets off scot-free while they snatch you from life for 2 weeks on a flawed piece of following the science.
And I'm not sure if it's like something to go with the fact that in the 22 of August, they announced the self-isolation voluntary camps. It was announced in Windsor recently. So I don't know if it's something to go with it, because a lot of people doesn't have like a specific place to quarantine. They are with their parents' house, or they are with like they don't have like really a specific where they are not mixed with other people, like family or children. So now they will go and push their camp to say, but no, you need to be really quarantining without nobody around. So they will like send you on the scam. We knew we were talking about it at the beginning. It was like a kind of conspiracy theory, but I don't think it is anymore.
It isn't, and people should stay tuned, because there are government documents that suggest that, at least based on what I've seen, this policy would go on for probably another year, of snatching people from the airport and putting them into quarantine against their will at a quarantine facility, or are monitoring people from at home if they've said, okay, well, we have an ability to quarantine alone at home, there are people who are, at least from the documents that I've seen, and stay tuned because I'm working on a story about it, that that's still in the works, and it is not only still happening, but will continue to happen going forward.
Yeah, so as I say, everybody keep following us. We have so much report, so much like access to information that we will give it to you. And I think it's important that you know what is going on and what is coming next, and as well. But if you want, you can chip some few bucks so we can continue to do our journalism. I think we are at the end.
I think we are at the end. Sorry about the technical difficulties there at the end. My earbuds died. So I had to, I just have to keep muting myself so that we don't get feedback between the two audio sources. But Alex, thank you so much for co-hosting with me today. I know you weren't scheduled, but you jumped in, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you to everybody in the studio in Toronto who works so hard to put the show together and prepare the show and the topics and get all the graphics put together and the video clips. It takes a lot of work, and do it on very short notice. Usually it takes, like for this, it's under an hour to put everything together. So that means they're working frantically. Also, special thanks to people who work behind the scenes on the website to make sure that you can find the show, because that also takes a few steps. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody who pitched in to support the work that we do. We know that there are a lot of places you can spend your money, and we know the Liberals are leaving less of it in your pocket than ever before. So we appreciate every little bit. And I don't think I'm on the stream tomorrow, but who knows? Things could change. And as David Menzies always says, stay sane.
We always have to know that this is a moment of transition. And we need to be, even as we're responding to the short-term pressures we have, which we're doing, we need to see where the world is going. And the pressures on decarbonization, the pressure to make sure that democracies are successful, means that we have to get working right now on what the future is going to look like. So the aggressive approach that Canada has taken on decarbonization, by putting a price on pollution, by putting our concern for workers and inclusive economic growth at the center of what we're doing, is all about strengthening the democratic fabric of our country and moving forward to where the low-carbon future is going to be, and doing that not on our own, but as close friends and partners working together with Germany and other countries is the best way, not just to prepare for the future, but to reassure Canadians and people around the world that the future is on track and there is room for each and every single citizen in that future to feel part of it, that it's not going to pass them by. These are the challenges we're facing, and this is where working together makes such a big difference.